Happy Halloween, guys.
Yay!
It is our Halloween episode, and Laura is an inflatable T-Rex.
I am. But I can't stay inflated the whole time.
She can't stay inflated the whole time.
Because I feel trapped. A little bit
I was
claustrophobic.
I was just gonna say, for somebody who's claustrophobic, I don't even know how you're doing this. Can you bend over so we can see your beautiful head? Oh my god, that thing is huge.
That's the best part of it. It's enormous. I can't even walk through things, through doorways. It's huge.
You guys, this is insane. Holy crap. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 2024's Halloween episode. We are going to be covering Harry Houdini this week because he died on Halloween. So we're going to get started. We need to get Laura out of that because I can't breathe looking at her for a number of reasons. One, I'm very hot looking at her. I'm claustrophobic. There she is. Okay. Oh, that's going to be nice for the audio, folks.
Sorry, guys. I apologize.
Oh, my God. Aw, now she's removing the T-Rex carcass.
It literally is like a whole thing just to be free. So this is what I'm wearing to work. And a bunch of us, my whole team is doing it.
Oh my God.
So we're all going to be inflatable dinosaurs, which is going to be hysterical. So we're doing Jurassic Park. That's our theme, is Jurassic Park. So
it's Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You guys. We'll put a picture of her in it on the social media for those of you who just listen to the audio. That was good. That was good stuff.
I'm literally sweating.
Oh my God. Do you want to let your dog out and shut the door? Do you want to? No, you got it. Okay, she's good. All right. Humphrey is co-hosting with us until he gets bored.
Right. So he's like, I'm done with you. Let me out. You've been a bit needy baby, huh?
Oh, I absolutely thought you were going to pick like a whole other outfit. I don't know why.
I'm T-Rex all the time. I did try to wake up Zane with it. And I thought,
yes,
this is going to be hysterical. He did not give a shit. He's like, leave me alone.
Go at the arms, your little arms.
It's so fun. And totally worth the sacrifice.
It literally, it was, oh my God. Before we even hit record, you guys, I'm like, I cannot look at you in that the entire episode.
Your makeup looks great.
Cool. Thank you. It's a spider. Wait, can you see? It's a spider.
Yeah. Good job.
Thanks. I was going to do a spider web and I'm like, I don't have that kind of time. But thanks. So guys, we don't have any EVPs. Happy Halloween. Hope you get all the candy and let's just jump right into it. Harry Houdini.
Okay. Am I going first? Or you going first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I'll go first. And gives
That's
you
good.
all the.
I'm so hot. I'm fogging up my glasses. I hate that.
Okay. All right. So hang on. Something's wrong with my thing. Hold on. Okay. So Harry Houdini, sources for this week are thegreatharryhoudini.com, smithsonianmag.com, and wikipedia.com or gov, whatever you use. So
whatever fancy.
On January 27th, 1908, at the Columbia Theater in St. Louis, Harry Houdini was about to debut his first theatrical performance. And the man known as the Great Master of Illusion stepped inside of an oversized milk can, sloshing gallons of water onto the stage. Houdini was about to do something that looked like a really bad idea. The can had already been poked, prodded, and turned upside down to prove to the audience that there was no hole beneath the stage. Houdini was handcuffed with his hands in front of him. His hair was parted down the middle, and he wore a grave expression on his face. His blue bathing suit revealed an exceptional physique. Holding his breath, he squeezed his entire body into the water-filled can as the lid was attached and locked from the outside with 6 padlocks. A cabinet was wheeled around the can to hide it from view. Time ticked away as the audience waited for Harry Houdini to drown. That's nice. They're like, we're watching and die.
Seriously.
Right. 2 minutes later, a panting and dripping Houdini emerged from behind the cabinet. The can was still padlocked. During his lifetime, nobody ever managed to figure out how he had escaped.
Wow.
So born on March 24th, 1874 in Budapest, Hungary, with the name of Erich Weiss. He was one of 6 children and the son of Rabbi Meyer Weiss and his second wife, Cecilia Steiner. In 1876, Meyer Weiss immigrated to the United States with the dream of a better life. He found work as a rabbi and changed his last name to Weiss. And then in 1876, the remainder of the family joined him in the United States. So the family had moved to Milwaukee when Eric was 8 years old. During his early years, Eric sold newspapers and shined shoes to help support the family. On October 28th, 1883, I guess I didn't realize Houdini was that old. Everybody's heard of Harry Houdini, right? But I guess I didn't realize that he was born in the 1800s. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense, but it does seem like he was closer to later in life,
Right. Yeah. I guess I don't know. I guess I just thought he was more recent, I guess. Anyway, so on October 28th, 1883, which is exactly this episode is coming out on October 28th. So a certain amount of math later, we're talking about him on this podcast. 9-year-old Eric made his first appearance on stage performing a trapeze act. He billed himself Eric the Prince of Air. At 12 years old, he hopped a freight car and ran away from home. All right. A year later, he returned to New York and continued to help support his family by working as a messenger, a necktie cutter, and photography assistant. However, nothing is known of his year away from his family. Isn't that weird?
We ran away from home, but nobody knows.
Nobody knows what he did. Nothing. And this came from his actual website. So even his own website was like, we got nothing.
That's crazy.
Right?
It's like the Agatha Christie time.
Yeah.
That nobody knows what she did with. She just disappeared for a week or 2 or something.
Right.
Remember?
And I would sure like to do that. Nobody ask. I don't tell. It's fine.
Right.
About this time, Eric and his brother Theo began to pursue an interest in magic. As a stage name, Eric Weiss became Harry Houdini by adding an I to the last name of his idol, French magician Robert Houdin. I'm probably butchering that. Sorry for our French listeners. Although they're not listening to this podcast for the amazing French we speak. Harry is simply an Americanized version of his nickname, Ehrie, E-H-R-I-E. At 17, Eric, now known as Harry Houdini, left his family to pursue his magic career. By the age of 20, Harry had been performing small acts throughout New York. So Houdini began his magic career in 1891, but had had little success. He appeared in a tent act with strongman Emil Jarrow. He performed in dime museums and sideshows and even doubled as the wild man at a circus. Houdini focused initially on traditional card tricks, and then at one point he billed himself as the king of cards. Some, but not all, professional musicians. Nope, wrong type of people.
Musicians thought he was pretty sweet.
Musicians thought he was real cool. At one point, no, sorry, I already read that line. Some, but not all, professional magicians would come to regard Houdini as a competent but not particularly skilled sleight of hand artist. That's a
backhanded compliment if I ever heard one.
1,000%. Saying that he lacked the grace and finesse required to achieve excellence in the craft. He soon began experimenting with escape acts. Excuse me for one moment, my ginormous eyelashes are really starting to poke me in the eye. Oh my God. Okay. In the early 1890s, Houdini was performing with his brother Dash Theodore as the Brothers Houdini. They performed at the Chicago World's Fair in 1893, right around the time that H.H. Holmes was running amok, before returning to New York City and working at Huber's Dime Museum for, quote, near starvation wages. In 1894, Houdini met fellow performer Wilhelmina Beatrice Bess Rayner. You decide. Bess was initially courted by Dash, his brother, but she and Houdini married, with Bess replacing Dash in the act, which became known as the Houdinis. For the rest of Houdini's performing career, Bess worked as his stage assistant.
Oh, his brother must have been pissed.
Right?
Out of a chicken, out of a job.
Right. Oh, all in one fell swoop.
Right.
That was pretty magical.
Right.
Houdini's big break came in 1899 when he met manager Martin Beck in St. Paul, Minnesota. Impressed by Houdini's handcuffs act, Beck advised him to concentrate on escape acts and booked him on the Orpheum vaudeville circuit. Within months, he was performing at the top vaudeville houses in the country. In 1900, Beck arranged for Houdini to tour Europe. After some days of unsuccessful interviews in London, Houdini's British agent, Harry Day, helped him to get an interview with C. Dundas Slater, who was at the time the manager of the Alhambra Theater. He was introduced to William Melville and gave a demonstration of escape from handcuffs at Scotland Yard. He succeeded in baffling the police so effectively that he was booked at Alhambra for 6 months. His show was an immediate hit, and his salary rose to $300 a week, which is the equivalent of $10,987 today.
That's pretty good.
I would really love to make that much every week. So between 1900 and 1920, he appeared in theaters all over Great Britain, performing escape acts, illusions, card tricks, outdoor stunts, and becoming one of the world's highest paid entertainers. He had also toured the Netherlands, Germany, France, Russia, and became widely known as the Handcuff King. In each city, Houdini challenged local police to restrain him with shackles and lock him in their jails. In many of the challenge escapes, he was first stripped nude and searched. In Moscow, he escaped from a Siberian prison transport van, claiming that had he been unable to free himself, he would have had to travel to Siberia, where the only key was kept.
Oh, wow.
Could you imagine?
No.
In Cologne, Houdini sued a police officer, Werner Graf, who alleged that he made his escapes via bribery. So Houdini won the case when he opened the judge's safe. He would later go on to say that the judge had forgotten to lock it. But he won the case when he was able to open the judge's safe. With his newfound wealth, Houdini purchased a dress that is said to have been made for Queen Victoria. He then arranged a grand reception where he presented his mother in the dress to all of their relatives. Houdini said it was the happiest day of his life. In 1904, he returned to the United States and purchased a house for $25,000, equivalent to $847,778 in 2023. It was a brownstone at 278 West 113th Street in Harlem, New York City. Hopefully that is not still an apartment because we just gave away somebody's home. From 1907 through the 1910s, Houdini performed with great success in the United States. He would free himself from jails, handcuffs, chains, ropes, straitjackets, often while hanging from a rope in the sight of street audiences. Because of imitators, Houdini put his handcuff act behind him on January 25th, 1908, and began escaping from a locked water-filled milk can, the one that we were talking about in the very beginning. The possibility of failure and death thrilled his audiences. Houdini also expanded his repertoire with his escape challenge act, in which he invited the public to devise contraptions to hold him. That's dangerous, right? These would go on to include nailed packing crates, sometimes lowered into water, riveted boilers, wet sheets, mail bags, and even the belly of a whale that had washed ashore in Boston. Gross. Brewers in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and other cities challenged Houdini to escape from a barrel after they filled it with beer. Gross. So while on tour in Europe in 1902, Houdini had actually visited, is it Blois? Probably, yeah. Okay.
Blois.
Yes, yeah. Where's your friend? She speaks French, right? That's good. I told you she should have been on this episode. So he had visited that city with the aim of meeting the widow of Emile Houdin, the son of let's see here, the son of Jean Eugene his idol. Thank you. With the aim of meeting his widow. And he wanted to do an interview, and he wanted to ask for permission to visit his grave. So he didn't receive permission, but he visited it anyway, which sounds like something we'd do. No, are you sure? All right, well, we'll see you later. Come on, let's go anyway. Houdini believed that he had actually been treated unfairly and later wrote a negative account of the incident in his magazine, claiming that he was, quote, treated most discourteously by Madame W. Emile Robert Houdin. And then in 1906, he sent a letter to the French magazine, I'm not even going to try and say it, stating, quote,
The Illusionist is what it would be.
Oh, okay, The Illusionist. There we go. Okay. You will certainly enjoy the article on Robert Houdin I am about to publish in my magazine. Yes, my dear friend, I think I can finally demolish your idol, who has so long been placed on a pedestal that he did not deserve.
Someone's bitter.
Bitter. Get out of the bitter barn and play in the hay, as Phoebe on Friends would say. So after much research, Houdini wrote a collection of articles on the history of magic, which were then expanded into The Unmasking of Robert Houdin, which was published in 1908. In this book, he attacked his former idol as a liar and a fraud for having claimed the invention of automata. Is that how you say it? Automata.
Mm-hmm.
And effects such as aerial suspension, which had been in existence for many years. So many of the allegations in the book were dismissed by magicians and researchers who defended Robert Houdin. Magician Jean Hugard would later write a full rebuttal to Houdini's book. So he was, winning friends and influencing people all over the place.
Right.
So during his career, Houdini explained some of his tricks in books written for the Magic Brotherhood. The book called Handcuff Secrets, which was published in 1909, revealed how many locks and handcuffs could be opened with properly applied force, others with shoestrings. Other times, he carried concealed lockpicks or keys. When tied down in ropes or straitjackets, he gained wiggle room by enlarging his shoulders and chest, moving his arms slightly away from his body. So his straitjacket escape was originally performed behind curtains, with him popping out free at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And so he did this so that the audience would not see him flail and wriggle around to get free, which he thought would ruin the performance. However, the audience perceived that he added the curtains to conceal an assistant to come out and free him, as straitjacket escapes were known to be impossible at that time. So his brother, who I guess forgave him for stealing his girl and his job, He was also an escape artist himself. He was billing himself as Theodore Hardin. So the brother discovered that audiences were more impressed when the curtains were eliminated so that they could watch him struggle to get out. On more than one occasion, they both performed straitjacket escapes while dangling upside down from the roof of a building in the same city. Oh, God. Yeah, this sounds like it would have been way too stressful for me to watch. He's gonna fall. So for most of his career, Houdini was a headline act in vaudeville. For many years, he was the highest paid performer in America and in the world. And one of Houdini's most notable non-escape stage illusions was performed at the New York Hippodrome when he vanished a full-grown elephant from the stage. He had purchased this trick from the magician Charles Morid. And in 1923, Houdini became president of Martinica and Company, America's oldest magic company. And that business is still in operation today. Nothing that I found as far as like even on his site or anything like that explained how he was able to just have a full-grown elephant disappear.
I don't know. I think like now they say they use a lot of mirrors and stuff to create the illusion of them disappearing.
Okay, that's better than my idea, which was a giant hole in the floor. I think you'd hear an elephant drop to the floor. So in 1906, Houdini started showing films of his outside escapes as part of his vaudeville act. In Boston, he presented a short film called Houdini Defeats Hankenschmidt. George Hankenschmidt was a famous wrestler of the day, but the nature of their contest is unknown as the film was lost.
That probably was pretty good.
Right? Convenient.
Mm-hmm.
In 1918, he signed a contract with film producer B.A. Rolfe to star in a 15-part serial, The Master Mystery. It was released in November 1918. And as was common at the time, the film serial was released simultaneously with a novel. Well, that's interesting. I didn't know that was done then. Financial difficulties resulted in B.A. Rolfe Productions going out of business, but The Master Mystery led to Houdini being signed by famous players Lasky Corporation and Paramount Pictures, for whom he made two pictures, The Grim Game in 1919 and Terror Island in 1920. I don't think a lot of people realize that he was also in film. I think they think he was just like
a magician. Yeah.
A magician, yeah. So The Grim Game was Houdini's first full-length movie and is reputed to be his best. Because of the flammable nature of nitrate film and their low rate of survival, film historians considered the film lost. One copy did exist hidden in the collection of a private collector, only known to a tiny group of magicians that saw it. They're a very private bunch of folks from everything that I had read. And I get why. Obviously, they don't want their trade secrets being exposed, but so that does make sense. Dick Brooks and Dorothy Dietrich of the Houdini Museum in Scranton, Pennsylvania, had seen it twice on the invitation of the collector. After many years of trying, they finally got him to agree to sell the firm to Turner Classic Movies, who restored the complete 71-minute film. The film, not seen by the general public for 96 years, was shown by Turner Classic Movies on March 29th, 2015, as a highlight of their yearly 4-day festival in Hollywood. Wow. 96 years, right? So while filming an aerial stunt for The Grim Game, two biplanes collided mid-air with a stuntman doubling Houdini dangling by a rope from one of the planes. Publicity was geared heavily toward promoting this dramatic caught-on-film moment, claiming it was Houdini himself dangling from the plane. So, while filming these movies in Los Angeles, Houdini actually had rented a home in Laurel Canyon. Following his 2-picture stint in Hollywood, longer than a lot of actors get, He returned to New York and started his own film production company called the Houdini Picture Corporation. He produced and starred in 2 films, The Man from Beyond in 1921 and Haldane of the Secret Service in 1923. He also founded his own film laboratory business called the Film Development Corporation, or the FDC. Gambling on a new process for developing motion picture film was basically the basis of this company. His brother, Theodore Houdini, left his own career as a magician and escape artist to run the company. Still all the faith in the world in his big brother.
Right.
Magician Harry Keller was a major investor of the company. In 1919, Houdini moved to Los Angeles to film. He resided in 2435 Laurel or at 2435 Laurel Canyon Boulevard, a residence that was owned by Ralph M. Walker. The Houdini estate, a tribute to Houdini, is located on 2400 Laurel Canyon Boulevard, previously home to Walker himself. So the Houdini estate is subject to controversy in that it's really disputed whether Houdini actually ever made it his home or ever actually lived there. So while there's claims that it was Houdini's house, others counter that he never set foot on the property. A lot of folks think that it was rooted in his wife Bess's parties or seances that were held across the street. She would do so at the Walker Mansion. In fact, the guest house featured an elevator connecting to a tunnel that crossed under Laurel Canyon to the big house grounds. So connecting basically both mansions underground together. Though
It's wild.
each end of the tunnel is capped. The tunnel still exists. Wouldn't that be crazy to walk through there?
It'd be cool.
It would be so cool. So neither Houdini's acting career nor FDC found success, and he gave up on the movie business in 1923, complaining that the profits were too meager. You and me both, Houdini. LA just didn't do right by me either. In 1909, Houdini became fascinated with aviation. So I wanted to add all of this stuff in because I don't think anybody realizes just how many pots this guy had his hands in.
Yeah.
So in 1909, he became fascinated with aviation. So he purchased a French Voisin, I'm assuming that's how you say it, biplane for $5,000, equivalent to $163,500 today, from Chilean aviators Jose Luis Sanchez Besa and Emilio Eduardo Bello. He hired a full-time mechanic, and after crashing once, he made his first successful flight on November 26th in Hamburg, Germany. The following year, Houdini toured Australia and brought along his biplane with the intention to be the first person to fly in Australia. And I thought, oh, wow, he's touring Australia. And I thought, well, this is interesting. These are tiny little flights compared to today. So on March 18, 1910, following more than a month of delays due to inclement weather conditions, Houdini completed one of the first powered airplane flights ever made in Australia. He made 3 flights in his biplane at the Old Plumpton Paddock at Diggers Rest, Victoria, and these ranged from 1 minute to 3.5 minutes, reaching an altitude of 100 feet in one of his flights and traveling more than 2 miles in another. 9 of the 30 spectators present on that day signed a certificate verifying Houdini's achievement. I was like, oh, these are little. All right, gotcha. So,
yeah, that's crazy.
Right? After completing his Australia tour, Houdini put the biplane into storage in England. He announced he would use it to fly from city to city during his next music hall tour and even promised to leap from it handcuffed, but he actually never flew again. All right, my dear, your turn. You pick
All
it
right.
up. Yeah.
In the 1920s, Houdini turned his energies toward debunking psychics and mediums in order to show how they were taking advantage of the bereaved. A pursuit that was in line with the debunkings by stage magicians since the late 19th century. Houdini's training in magic allowed him to expose frauds who had successfully fooled many scientists and academics. He was a member of a Scientific American committee that offered a cash prize to any medium who could successfully demonstrate supernatural abilities. None were able to do so, and the prize was never collected. The first to be tested was medium George Val- Valentine of Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. As his fame as a medium buster grew, Houdini took to attending seances in disguise, accompanied by a reporter and a police officer. Possibly the most famous medium he debunked was Mina Crandon, also known as Marjorie. Houdini chronicled his debunking exploits in his book, A Magician Among the Spirits, co-authored with C.M. Eddy Jr., who was not credited. Not
Nice.
nice.
Yeah. Co-authored by his brother, who was
Right.
not credited.
And his brother wrote his part, but nobody told. Um, these activities comprise Houdini's friendship with Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Doyle, a firm believer in spiritualism during his later years, refused to give credence to any of Houdini's exposés. Doyle came to believe that Houdini was a powerful spiritualist medium and had performed many of his stunts by means of paranormal abilities, and was using those abilities to block the powers of the mediums that he was supposedly debunking.
That sounds a
This
little
disagreement,
convoluted.
right, yeah. I was going to say, we know what president he would have voted for. This disagreement led to the two men becoming public antagonists, and Doyle came to view Houdini as a dangerous enemy. Houdini died on October 31st, 1926, at the age of 52 from peritonitis,
Yeah.
swelling of the abdomen, possibly related to appendicitis and possibly related to punches to his abdomen he had received about a week and a half earlier.
Yeah.
That's not very fun.
Mm-mm.
The accounts of the witnesses, students named Jacques Price and Sam Smilowitz, sometimes called Jack Price and Sam Smiley, generally corroborated each other. Price said that Whitehead asked Houdini if he believed in the miracles of the Bible and whether it was true that punches in the stomach did not hurt him. Houdini offered a casual reply that his stomach could endure a lot. Whitehead then delivered some very hammer like blows below the belt. Houdini was reclining on a couch at the time, having broken his ankle while performing several days earlier. Price said that Houdini winced at each blow and stopped Whitehead suddenly in the midst of a punch, gesturing that he had had enough, and adding that he had had no opportunity to prepare himself against the blows, as he did not expect Whitehead to strike him so suddenly and forcefully. Had his ankle not been broken, he would have risen from the couch into a better position to brace himself.
Sorry, but who does that?
Right, just walks up to people and
Right.
like
I
punch
hear
them.
that you can take some blows to the stomach. What does that?
Throughout the evening, Houdini performed in great pain. He had insomnia and remained in constant pain for the next 2 days, but did not seek medical help. When he finally saw a doctor, he was found to have a fever of 102 and acute appendicitis, and was advised to have immediate surgery. He ignored the advice and decided to go on with the show.
Oh, Jesus.
Right. When
Dudes,
Houdini
man.
arrived at the Garrick Theater in Detroit, Michigan on October 24th, 1926, for what would be his last performance, he had a fever of 104. Despite the diagnosis, Houdini took the stage. He was reported to have passed out during the show, but was revived and continued. What the fuck?
He
Afterwards,
was
he was
hardcore.
hospitalized at Detroit's Grace Hospital, where he died from peritonitis on October 31st, aged 52.
Good Lord.
It is unlikely that the dressing room incident caused Houdini's eventual death, since the effects of sustained. Hey!
Humphrey disagrees.
Sorry, somebody walked in the house. God forbid.
Somebody existed in the world. That's what my dogs bark at.
Oh, okay, better. All right, where was I? Okay. Oh, since the effects of sustaining blunt trauma alongside appendicitis is debated in medical literature. Although rare, acute appendicitis, which follows after direct abdominal trauma, has been observed. One
Hmm.
theory suggests that Houdini was unaware that he was suffering from appendicitis, and he might have taken his abdominal pain more seriously had he not coincidentally received blows to the abdomen. According to Adam Begley, it is more likely that Houdini was suffering the effects of appendicitis prior to the punch, and his reluctance to seek medical care delayed potential treatment.
Okay.
After taking statements from Price and Smilovitz, Houdini's insurance company concluded that the death was due to the dressing room incident and paid double indemnity.
Wow. All
Um,
right.
right? Before Houdini died, he and his wife agreed that if Houdini found it possible to communicate after death, he would communicate the message Rosabelle Believe, a secret code which they agreed to use. Rosabelle was their favorite song. Bess held yearly seances on Halloween for 10 years after Houdini's death. She did claim to have contact through Arthur Ford in 1929 when Ford conveyed the secret code, but Bess later said the incident had been faked. The code seemed to have been such that it could be broken by Ford or his associates using existing clues. Evidence to this effect was discovered by Ford's biographer after he died in 1971. In 1936, after a last unsuccessful seance on the roof of the Knickerbocker Hotel, she put out the candle that she had kept burning beside a photograph of Houdini since his death in 1943. Oh, I'm sorry, since his death. In 1943, Bess said that 10 years is long enough to wait for any man.
Facts.
She's like, I got your brother back up.
Yeah,
Um,
we're gonna rekindle some stuff.
Houdini's funeral was held on November 4th, 1926, in New York, with more than 2,000 mourners in attendance. He was interred in the Machpelah Cemetery in Glendale, Queens, with the crest of the Society of American Musicians.
We
Oh my
see
God.
musicians. See?
Magicians inscribed on his gravesite. A statuary bust was added to the exedra in 1927, a rarity because graven images are forbidden in Jewish cemeteries.
Hmm.
In 1975, the bust was destroyed by vandals.
Fuck.
All right, assholes. Can't have
Always
anything
somebody.
nice.
I know.
Temporary busts were placed at the grave until 2011 when a group from the Houdini Museum in Scranton, Pennsylvania, placed a permanent bust with the permission of Houdini's family and of the cemetery.
Hmm.
The Society of American Magicians took responsibility for the upkeep of the site as Houdini had willed a large sum of money to the organization. He had grown from one club to 5,000 to 6,000 dues paying membership worldwide.
Damn.
Right? The payment of upkeep was abandoned by the Society's dean, George Schindler, who said Houdini paid for perpetual care, but there's nobody at the cemetery to provide it. Adding that the operator of the cemetery, David Jacobson, sends us a bill for upkeep every year, but we never pay it because he never provides any care.
Oh,
Members of the
slick.
society tidy the grave themselves.
Huh.
Yeah. Montpella Cemetery operator Jacobson said the ce- they never paid the cemetery for any restoration of the Houdini family plot in my tenure since 1988, claiming that the money came from the cemetery's dwindling funds. The granite monuments of Houdini's sister Gladys and brother Leopold were also destroyed by vandals. For many years until recently, the Houdini gravesite has been only cared for by Dorothy Dietrich and Dick Brooks of the Houdini Museum in Scranton, Pennsylvania. The Society of American Magicians, at its National Council meeting in Boca Raton, Florida, in 2013, under the prompting of Dietrich and Brooks, voted to assume the financial responsibilities of the care and maintenance of the Houdini gravesite. While the actual plot will remain under the control of the Machpelah Cemetery Management, the Society of American Magicians, with the help of the Houdini Museum in Pennsylvania, will be in charge of the restoration.
Good Lord.
That's a lot of work. All right,
A lot of
Houdini's
hands figuring it out and
right.
getting it taken care of.
Houdini's widow Bess died of a heart attack on February 11th, 1943, age 67, in Needles, California. While on a train en route from LA to New York City, she had expressed a wish to be buried next to her husband, but instead was interred 35 miles due north at the Gate of Heaven Cemetery in Westchester County, New York, as her Catholic family refused to let her be buried in a Jewish cemetery.
Aw.
Yeah. Houdini's brother Theodore Harding who returned to performing after Houdini's death, inherited his brother's effects and props. Houdini's will stipulated that all the effects should be burned and destroyed upon Hardeen's death. Hardeen sold much of the collection to magician and Houdini enthusiast Sidney Hollis Radnor during the 40s, including the water torture cell. Radnor allowed choice pieces of the collection to be displayed at the Houdini Magical Hall of Fame in Niagara Falls, Ontario. In 1995, a fire destroyed the museum.
God,
Right? Like, can anybody get a break around
I don't. It doesn't seem to pay to be a magician.
here? No. Um, the water torture cell's metal frame remained, but it was restored by illusion builder John Guggen. Many of the props contained in the museum, such as the mirror handcuffs, Houdini's original packing crate, a milk can, and a straitjacket, survived the fire and were auctioned in 1999 and 2008. A large portion of the Houdini estate holdings and memorabilia was willed to his fellow musician and friend John Mulholland. In 1991, illusionist and television performer David Copperfield purchased all of Mulholland's Houdini holdings from Mulholland's estate. These are now archived and preserved in Copperfield's warehouse at his headquarters in Las Vegas. It contains the world's largest collection of Houdini memorabilia and preserves approximately 80,000 items of memorabilia of Houdini and other magicians, including Houdini's stage props and material, his rebuilt water torture cabinet, and his metamorphosis trunk. It is not open to the public, but tours are available by invitation to magicians, scholars, researchers, journalists, and serious collectors. And a
Which do you think
posthumous
we fall into?
none of those
No.
things.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Fine.
right. Rude. In a posthumous ceremony on October 31st, 1975, Houdini was given a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame at 7001 Hollywood Boulevard. The Houdini Museum in Scranton, Pennsylvania, bills itself as the only building in the world entirely dedicated to Houdini. It is open to the public year round by reservation. It includes Houdini films, a guided tour about Houdini's life, and a stage magic show.
Ow.
Magicians Dorothy Dietrich and Dick Brooks opened the facility in 1991. The Magic Castle in LA, I actually really want to go there.
Oh
A
God.
night,
Yeah.
yeah, it'd be fun. A nightclub for magicians and magic enthusiasts, as well as the clubhouse for the Academy of Magical Arts, features Houdini seances performed by magician Misty Lee.
Before you continue, I do want to say that when we were planning the Hollywood event that we were going to do, Josh had actually suggested, because we were like, we do a group dinner, right?
Mm.
So we were tossing around different areas that we could go have dinner, and he suggested the Magic Castle as
Yeah, I have it on my list of places in LA
yes.
that I want to go to. There are actually quite a few that I haven't been to that I still
Yeah.
want to go.
We had looked
Like,
into it. We were going to
mm,
have like 15 people, I think, on that trip.
mm.
So I had looked into it because they have one that is a dinner, and then after dinner, you do a seance to try to contact Houdini. But
Oh, fun.
yeah, it was maximum 10 people, and I'm like, well, there's that.
Well,
And I know. I was like, dang, that would have been really
who do we
cool,
cut?
right?
Everybody picks Strauss. The rest of you are going to McDonald's. Um, all right. So the House of Houdini is a museum and performance venue located at 11 Dietz Square in the Buda Castle in Budapest, Hungary. It claims to house the largest collection of original Houdini artifacts in Europe. The Houdini Museum of New York is located at Phantasma Magic, a retail magic manufacturer and seller located in Manhattan. The museum contains several hundred pieces of ephemera. Am I saying that?
Ephemera.
Ephemera. I'm like, I know I'm not saying that right. Most of which belong to Harry Houdini. In McSorley's old ale house, there are many items of historical paraphernalia, including a pair of Houdini's handcuffs, which are connected to the bar rail. That's kind of cool.
I know this guy was. I didn't have any idea how popular magic was. I
Well, back
mean, it's
then.
and there's a
But still, look at Vegas, right? Like, because you have Penn and Teller, you have
True.
David Copperfield. I mean, and those guys have been there for
For
ages,
decades, yeah.
and they're still performing and getting paid. And
Yep.
people like I wanted to go see Penn and Teller when I was there. I just didn't have time.
Yeah.
I think that'd be fun. They're hilarious.
Oh, I
Um,
know.
in 1904, the London Daily Mirror newspaper challenged Houdini to escape from. So these are more the most popular escapes. Challenged Houdini to escape from special handcuffs that it claimed had taken Nathaniel Hart, a locksmith from Birmingham, 5 years to make. Houdini accepted the challenge for March 17th during a matinee performance at London's Hippodrome Theatre. It was reported that 4,000 people and more than 100 journalists turned out for the much hyped event. The escape attempt dragged on for over an hour, during which Houdini emerged from his ghost house, a small screen used to conceal the method of his escape several times. At one point, he asked if the cuffs could be removed so he could take off his coat. The Mirror representative Frank Parker refused, saying Houdini could gain an advantage if he saw how the cuffs were unlocked.
Hmm.
Houdini promptly took out a penknife and, holding it in his teeth, used it to cut his coat from his body. Some 56 minutes later, Houdini's wife appeared on stage and gave him a kiss. Many thought that in her mouth was the key to unlock the special handcuffs. However, it has since been suggested that Bess did not, in fact, enter the stage at all, and that this theory is unlikely due to the size of the 6-inch key.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's
Houdini
yeah.
then went back behind the curtain. After an hour and 10 minutes, Houdini emerged free. As he was paraded on the shoulders of the cheering crowd, he broke down and wept. At the time, Houdini said it had been one of the most difficult escapes of his career.
Wow.
Yeah. So then the milk can escape. In 1908, Houdini introduced his own original act, the milk can escape. In this act, Houdini was handcuffed and sealed inside an oversized milk can. I'm like, those are tiny. Um, Filled with water, and made his escape behind a curtain. As part of the effect, Houdini invited members of the audience to hold their breath along with him while he was inside the can.
Oh, yeah, I'll do that.
Advertise
Let's do
mhm,
that.
as they all pass out.
Right?
um,
Someone
Advertised
comes
with
and unlocks
dramatic
them.
posters that proclaimed failure means a drowning death. The escape proved to be a sensation. Houdini soon modified the escape to include the milk can being locked inside a wooden chest, being chained or padlocked. Houdini performed the milk can escape as a regular part of his act for only 4 years, but it has remained one of the acts most associated with him. Houdini's brother continued to perform the milk can escape in its wooden chest variant into the 1940s.
Hmm.
The American Museum of Magic has the milk can and overboard box used by Houdini.
That's cool.
Yeah. So the Chinese water torture cell. Around 1912, the vast number of imitators prompted Houdini to replace his milk can act with the Chinese water torture cell. In this escape, Houdini's feet were locked in stocks, and he was lowered upside down into a tank filled with water. The mahogany and metal cell featured a glass front through which audiences could clearly see Houdini. The stocks were locked to the top of the cell, and a curtain concealed his escape. In the earliest version of the torture cell, a metal cage was lowered into the cell, and Houdini was enclosed inside that. While making the escape more difficult, the cage prevented Houdini from turning. The cage bars also offered protection should the front glass break. It just sounds like it's
No,
terrifying.
awful.
Like I couldn't even watch that. I would just be like,
Mm-mm,
ugh.
no, I wouldn't be. I would be so uncomfortable.
hmm The original cell was built in England, where Houdini first performed the escape for an audience of one person as part of a one-act play he called Houdini Upside Down.
Clever.
This was done to obtain copyright protection for the effect and establish grounds to sue imitators, which he did. While the escape was advertised as the Chinese water torture cell or the water torture cell, Houdini always referred to it as the Upside Down or USD. The first public performance of the USD was at the Circus Busch in Berlin on September 21st, 1912. Houdini continued to perform the escape until his death in 1926.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, one of Houdini's most popular publicity stunts was to have himself strapped into a regulation straitjacket and suspended by his ankles from a tall building or crane. Houdini would then make his escape in full view of the assembled crowds. In many cases, Houdini drew tens of thousands of onlookers who brought city traffic to a halt. Houdini would no shit. Houdini would sometimes ensure press coverage by performing the escape from the office building of a local newspaper.
Sure.
In New York City, Houdini escaped the suspended straitjacket escape from a crane being used to build the subway. After flinging his body in the air, he escaped from the straitjacket. Um, Starting from when he was hoisted up in the air by the crane to when the straitjacket was completely off, it took him 2 minutes and 37 seconds. There is film footage in the Library of Congress of Houdini performing the escape. Films of his escapes are also shown at the Houdini Museum in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Holy crap.
Right? That's crazy. I couldn't even get that fucking costume off in 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Laura is a musician, not a magician.
I'm trapped by a T-Rex.
Made of the thinnest material ever.
Right? With a fan in there to make sure I don't get too hot. After being battered against a building in high winds during one escape, Houdini performed the escape with a visible safety wire on his ankle so that he could be pulled away from the building if necessary. The idea for the upside down escape was given to Houdini by a young boy named Randolph Osborne Douglas when the two met at a performance at Sheffield's Empire Theater.
Cool.
Yeah. So there was also the buried alive stunt. I don't know.
I
I
thought it
cannot
said burn
read.
too. I was
I
like,
was
that's
like,
not-
am I like just making shit up? I'm like, I don't remember him being lit on fire, but that sounds like it's something he would do.
it really does, right? All right. Buried alive. Gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
Houdini performed at least 3 variations on a buried alive stunt during his career. The first was near Santa Ana, California in 1915, and it almost cost him his life. Houdini was buried without a casket in a pit of earth 6 feet deep.
No.
He became exhausted and panicked while trying to dig his way to the surface and called for help. When his hand finally broke the surface, he fell unconscious and had to be pulled from the grave by his assistants. Houdini wrote in his diary that the escape was very dangerous, no shit, and that the weight of the earth is killing. Huh.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't need to be
That's why
buried in it
people
to know
don't
that.
do that. It's not common practice.
You probably should have been burned instead of buried.
Right.
That would have
That sounds
been
safer.
That sounds much safer.
Houdini's second variation on Buried Alive was an endurance test designed to expose mystical Egyptian performer Ramen Bey, who had claimed to use supernatural powers to remain in a sealed casket for an hour. Houdini bettered Bey on August 5th, 1926, by remaining in a sealed casket or coffin, submerged in the swimming pool of New York's Hotel Shelton for 1.5 hours.
No.
All of this is like my fucking worst nightmare come true.
This is And now
I'm
the
like in
scary
a
part
fucking
of the whole
casket in
thing.
a pool.
Right? A casket in a pool on fire.
Right. Houdini claimed he didn't use any trickery or supernatural powers to accomplish this feat, just controlled breathing. He repeated the feat at the YMCA in Worcester, Massachusetts on September 28th, 1926, this time remaining sealed for 1 hour and 11 minutes. Houdini's final Buried Alive was an elaborate stage escape that featured in his full evening show. Houdini would escape after being strapped in a straitjacket, sealed in a casket, and then buried in a large tank filled with sand. While posters advertising the escape exist, playing off the Bay challenge by boasting Egyptian fakers outdone, it is unclear whether Houdini ever performed Buried Alive on stage. The stunt was to be the feature escape of his 1927 season, but Houdini died on October 31st, 1926. The bronze casket Houdini created for Buried Alive was used to transport his body from Detroit to New York following his death on Halloween. Yay, Houdini.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the story of Houdini. I really had no idea that he was into flying and, all of this other stuff, filmmaking and preserving. Like
He did a ton of stuff.
he did a ton of stuff. Yeah. Um,
And we kind of
all of
talk
it.
about him in the spiritualism episode too, because of how
Yes.
famous he became for debunking people.
Yeah. He hated them.
Mm-hmm.
He hated them. And I think it was because, I think when we cover that in the episode, somebody said that they could talk to his mother. He was very aggrieved when his mother died.
Mm-hmm. They were super close.
Yeah. And then, so he was like, all right, well, let me talk to my mother. And then it was like fake. And then that pissed him off. And he was like, I'm out to get you.
Yeah, he got really
So,
upset.
yeah.
Which, understandable. Okay.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair. So yeah, that's our Halloween episode for 2024, guys. We hope you liked it. We chose it because Houdini died on Halloween, so we thought that would be pretty appropriate. And then, of course, Laura terrifying all of us by talking about some of these freaking escapes he did.
Dude, seriously, it gives me a panic attack, and I'm not watching it. Just reading, I'm like,
Just
oh,
reading about it, right?
Mm-mm.
But I think we should definitely try to go to the Magic Castle. I think that would be really cool. I mean,
It would
actually,
be super fun.
all the stuff that I've ever done and ghost hunts and all this stuff, I've never been a part of a seance, largely because if the person running it doesn't know what they're doing, that puts a whole lot of people at the table at risk. We're getting nasty stuff.
They just seem so
called forward,
like over the top, and it reminds me of Scooby-Doo too much for me to take it seriously. You know what I mean? Like, it's like all the movies and stuff you saw about that kind of stuff, like when you were growing up. I'm like, seances are goofy.
Yeah. Not for me. So yeah, we will be back next week, guys, with a brand new episode. We hope you enjoyed this one. And like we say at the beginning, we hope you have a very safe Halloween. You get all the candy. We are does your neighborhood do a lot on Halloween? Like as far as
Yeah. And we
it's a big deal
usually
there.
like bring one of the fire pits out front, although God knows we probably won't need it this year.
No, probably not.
And then, well, it's gonna cool off actually, but I make chili and cornbread, and we sit out front, and like a lot of our neighbors just sit out front and pass out because there's a lot of kids in the neighborhood. So,
Same, yeah.
and it's like a gated community, so most of the people like live there. So, and so we know all the kids, and you see them all the time, and
yeah,
so
yeah, that'll be cool.
fun.
Yeah, we signed up. Our house signed up to be have candy for the kids and then treats for the adults. So we're going to be handing out Jello shots.
Nice.
In addition,
yeah, my neighbors do that too. They're like shots for the adults and stuff.
Yeah, shots for
we
the
actually
adults.
went to a trunk and treat yesterday.
A trunken treat or a drunken treat?
No, trunk and treat.
Oh, trunk or treat.
Trunk or
Okay.
treat. Yeah, like at the church down the way.
A drunken treat at the church down the
It was not a Catholic church. So no drunken treating.
Thanks, I'll pass. Anyway, guys, yeah, stay safe out there. You never know who
or what
magician is going to talk you into
no water cell torture. No.
Oh God, water cell and the buried alive.
Ugh.
And
worse.
the buried
That
alive
coffin in the pool killed me. I was like, no.
Yeah, you never know. Also keep an eye on your brother because he might steal your girl and then give her your job. So lots to be on the lookout for.
Fucked up. Yeah.
Seriously. Bye, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.